Hi, my name's Dan, and this video is one of the series of videos that I'm doing about enemies and design of enemies for video games as part of a larger suite of videos that I'm doing on game design. And in this one, I want to talk about drops. I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you have some interest in video games. And the likelihood is that you understand what I mean when I say a drop. But just in case, there is anybody here who doesn't. When you kill an enemy in a game or defeat them in some way, it's fairly common for you then to be able to loot the body and to collect some stuff from their body. Now, in real life, this seems to be frowned upon in books about war, and when you come across characters who are looting the bodies of dead people, this is seen as a despicable thing to do. In video games, however, the morality seems to be completely different. And why would you possibly waste the fact that the enemy that you have killed has got a brilliant sword that you might want yourself? Looting is not just tolerated, it's encouraged in games. Yet another case where video games are, of course, eroding the morality of society. We're going to talk about drops, and there's really not a huge amount to say, to be honest. I want to look at two or three things here, but we're going to be done quite quickly. There's my first thing is this nonsensical drop situation where you kill one particular thing and it seems to be carrying all sorts of random stuff, which is typified by this question: why does the wolf have trousers? So you kill a wolf, it may be there's some kind of justification that the wolf has previously eaten some adventurer and they had trousers which didn't digest. I don't understand that, but never mind. However, it's not really that important. So the kinds of things that you might get from drops, just to kind of classify them, you could get usable items. It would make sense if the soldier that you're fighting, you're in a world where health potions are available. It's no surprise that they have a couple of health potions on hand. There may be crafting materials that are dropped, and certainly from animals you might get bone that can be used. You might get feathers or hide that can be turned into leather, and that all seems entirely logical and reasonable. And there might be what's called vendor fodder or vendor trash, which is items that really have no use in the game at all, other than to A, clog up your inventory, and B, provide you with something that you can sell to improve your cash flow. Some games take the option of shortcutting that process, and instead of giving you the trash, they just give you some cash. And so that question of why is the wolf carrying money? The answer is it's not. It's got things on it which, if you spend the time to hack them apart and get into the rare wolf knee joints or whatever it is that you can have that somebody will pay you money for, instead of making the player go through that whole process, they just give you the money, and I think that that's fair enough, to be honest. Um, so the next thing really to talk about then is loot tables, and loot tables come from the you might have heard the term. They come from uh, pen and paper dice rolling RPGs, where when you kill something in one of those games, there's a whole lot of information in the back of one of the books or some of the books that's laid out to tell you what rewards or what loot can be given to the players as a result. And here's one page from Pathfinder showing you this. You know, this is table 719, table 720 and you get master tables and subtables and all sorts of complications. Now, in the more advanced pen and paper games, there's a lot of items, and one of the things that's easy to do in pen and paper is just to say, right, yeah, you've got such an item. If you're doing it in a video game, of course, these things need creating, so they tend to be narrower in their focus. Here's a loot table that claims to show Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls and how the loot goes in there. And you'll see that here there are percentage chances of various things being dropped from enemies. What often happens in loot tables, actually, in games, is that you'll have, um, especially if you've done it with some kind of taxonomy, and I've talked about taxonomies in an earlier video in this series, that you might have loot tables at various levels. So the specific enemy that you've killed might have its own loot table, but it might also have, say, we had a Glimmerwing Archer, which is a light elf. There might be also a general elf loot table. So you might get some things off there as well. And loot tables generally they use some kind of random number generation to determine what you get. And it may be a choice from different items, or there may be a chance of particular items. And designing your loot tables is a significant job, and other than saying you need them and you need to think about your economy in your games when you're designing loot tables, I don't really want to go much further than that. I want to deal with economies in a separate video in a series that I'm going to do on resources later. But I do want to throw one last thing in about loot tables, which is the thought that it's very tempting to approach this in the way that a lot of games do approach this, to have items that are common and then rarer, and you're getting through to kind of epic and legendary and masterwork and words like that. When you have items that are at very low percentages of drop rates, then you are automatically encouraging grinding. And again, I assume you know what grinding is, but just in case, grinding is the process of a player spending hours and hours uh, killing the same types of mob over and over again because they're after a particular drop and they're looking for the chance for that item to drop. Grinding can be seen as a problem in games, and as a designer, you might need to think about if there is a place in your game for grinding and how you're going to deal with that. There is some evidence to suggest that there is a connection between grinding and game addiction. So I think that if you provide opportunities to grind in games, players will take them. If there are good reasons to grind, then they will grind. But I think that grinds can reduce from the overall enjoyment that people are having in games. And there may be other ways to deal with rare items, um, instead making them some kind of high level achievement would be something you could do, and get them to do something meaningful on the way. This is the real issue: is that repeated killing with the grinding is something that kind of, in terms of enjoyment, flattens out. You're just doing it mechanically over and over again. If you were able to build in the process of doing other things with other rewards at the same time, then it might be less of a problem. Anyway, that's it from me for now.